Once you start making your own powdered season, there really is no turning back. The flavors are brighter, fresher, and you get full control over what goes into your blend. I just finished a batch, so let me show you how I made it. I'm just using a few aromatics I have on hand. Each one adds its own layer of flavor to the mix. Since we're dehydrating these, we need to cut them very thin. The thinner the cut, the higher the surface area, and that makes the drying process much more efficient. I'm using both red and white onions, red onions for extra pungency and white onions for their sweeter flavor. I'm also using a stalk of celery. Celery is a flavor powerhouse, especially when dehydrated, so it's perfect for a seasoned blend. No, slicing thin is good, but it's not always the most efficient for dehydration. Mincing them fine usually works better, but the sliced ones just look better, and I like looking at beautiful things. For heat, I'm using 2 Scotch bonnet peppers. I love the flavor of Scotch bonnet, but unfortunately, after dehydration, what we're left with is mostly heat. Those sweet, fruity, aromatic flavors you get from a Scotchy are volatile. They get lost or heavily muted during dehydration. If you want more than just heat in your season, there are other chilies out there with really distinct dried flavors that are worth exploring. A few stalks of chopped scallion. These add a sweet, earthy umami flavor. It's reminiscent of bouillon. I'm also adding some ginger. Dehydrated ginger adds a lot of warm, earthy notes with a lingering peppery kick. Next, I have some garlic. I'm using 1 bulb. Dehydrated garlic loses its sharpness and becomes deeply savory with a slight, almost meaty taste. Perfect. Now that my veggies are sliced, let's get them on our tray. Add a piece of grease paper so we don't have any sticking. A dehydrator is the ideal equipment to get these dry and crispy. About 6 to 10 hours should do the trick. You just set it and forget it. You could also sun dry these. That's the oldest, most natural way to do it. It's a gentler drying method that preserves more of the volatile flavor compounds, especially for more delicate ingredients. But that's if it's done right. Sun drying takes about 2 to 5 days. Humidity has to be consistently low. Good airflow is a must. You have insects to contend with, and some of the foods might even spoil because it's a much slower process. I'm also adding some basil. When dehydrated, it adds a warm, herby flavor that rounds out the other ingredients. That's 2 small stalks, leaves only. I have a lot of fresh basil, so I'm using it up, but I think a much better herb here would be parsley. Parsley adds light grassy notes that bring a lot of brightness to blends without being overpowering. It just hangs out in the background. And that's it for our herbs and aromatics, at least for now. I don't have a dehydrator and sun drying isn't the best option for me, so I'll be using my oven. It's set to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the lowest it can go. Anything under 180 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal for dehydration, and if your oven has a fan, that's a big bonus. I'm leaving the door open slightly so that moisture can escape. Now, depending on your setup, this will take anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. You want to make sure you're not cooking anything. About 45 minutes to an hour, you can check on them and give them a stir to help with even drying. They'll slowly go from juicy to leathery. Once they hit that leathery stage, they become extremely fragrant. This smells great. These are most of the way done now, so I'm adding a quarter cup of pimento or allspice. These are already dried, but what I've found with pimento is that they always have just a little bit of moisture still in them. I live in Jamaica where allspice is produced, so I get these extremely fresh. The amount of moisture is probably negligible, but the less there is, the better. This took me around 7 full hours of dehydrating. My electric bill shouldn't be too crazy. This is a low power setup, but I'll worry about that at the end of the month when I get my bill. Yes man, these are crispy. That's exactly what you want. They should give you a satisfying snap. Any leathery texture means there might still be water. The most impressive thing about this is the smell. The blend of aromas is incredible. I use my bare hands a lot. I like the tactile part of cooking. Feeling textures tell you a lot about food. But I don't recommend it here. These spices will irritate your skin, especially if you're sensitive. And please remember to wash your hands. You won't feel the need to touch your face until your hands are covered in capsaicin. And with that being said, let's measure how much dry season we got. This will vary a lot depending on the moisture content of the aromatics you start with. Knowing the exact amount helps us to determine how much of the other ingredients to add later. I ended up with 2 whole cups of dehydrated season. Honestly, I was expecting a lot less. Here I have a 1/4 cup of salt. Salt has many different roles in a seasoning blend. First, salt makes everything taste better, boosting sweetness, taming bitterness, and helping savory flavors shine. It also ties the whole blend together by spreading the flavors more evenly across whatever you're seasoning. Because salt dissolves easily, it acts as a carrier for other flavors. It even helps preserve the blend a bit by reducing moisture and slowing down spoilage. It's especially useful if you're working with anything that might hold a little extra water. Texturally, it gives dry mixes a nicer mouthfeel, less dusty and more complete. You don't have to add salt, but if you do, it turns your blend into something that's ready to use right out of the jar. I'm also adding a tablespoon and a half of sugar. Not to make the blend sweet, but sugar does a lot in the background. It balances bitterness and strong heat, smooths out sharp edges, and brings out the natural sweetness in some ingredients. Like salt, it's optional, but when used right, it ties everything together. Great. All that's left now is to give this a blend. I don't want a completely fine powder, but I also don't want large chunks as well. And just like that, we have some homemade powdered season. I'm not seeing any clumping, so that's a great sign. Clumping usually means there's still moisture in the blend, and moisture is not good, especially for long-term storage. Very nice. I'm satisfied with that size and texture. I want this to have a bit more color, so I'm adding 2 tablespoons of paprika. You could of course make your spice blend from pre-dried spices like onion powder or garlic powder, but there's something extremely satisfying about dehydrating your own. You also get much better flavor. Speaking of flavor, I'm going to grab a small amount of this. Tasting it is a neat way to quickly tell how well the blend comes together. Yup, that's really spicy. 2 Scotch bonnets might have been a bit much. I was going for more of an all-purpose season. But tasting it like this can only tell you so much, so let's test it out. I've got a few potato wedges here. I'm going to season them with our spice blend and some olive oil. The ginger is a little forward in this batch, so next time I might dial that back a bit. This spice smells amazing, but remember, it's concentrated. Don't expect it to taste good on its own. It's much better suited for meat dishes though. I've been using this to season meat and fish for the past week and it's been great on everything. I've completely replaced store-bought powdered season. That's delicious. A bit spicy, but I honestly wasn't expecting it to turn out this well. To keep all those delicious complex flavors, store this in something airtight. I'm just checking to see if the seasons stick to the sides of the container. If it does, that would mean that there's still some moisture in there. The fix is simple. Just dehydrate the blend a bit more. I noticed that the flavor mellowed out and matured a bit after a few days. It's shelf stable, so it should hold up really well for months, maybe longer. If you can, give this a shot. It's definitely worth making a big batch to use for months, or try making different blends for different purposes. I winged this recipe and still got excellent results, so I'll leave the ingredients list in the description, but feel free to experiment. Leave a like if you got some value from this. Thanks for watching and Bless up.